Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
I'm Dr. Peggy Polonis. Join me on each episode where I unravel the story that shaped leaders, tracing the thread that led them where they are today. Because leadership isn't born in adulthood. And thank you once again for joining us on the Leadership Thread, education, ethics, and sustainability.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. The Rita Cosby Show
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, President Trump gearing up for all options, saying that Iran better come to the table, better give up its nuclear development, or he will blow the country to smithereens. That's pretty much a direct quote. So President Trump is not messing around. What do you think is going to happen next? Clearly, now that we know that several U.S. flagships have made it through the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's not happy. In fact, just a few hours ago, a lot of the officials from Iran coming out and saying, oh, this is highly inappropriate. This is an escalation. It's an escalation to have free waterways. This is what they should have done to the beginning. But President Trump saying that he's waiting for them to maybe self-implode. That would be the best thing of all. And that would be a brilliant, brilliant strategy. Telling America, hold on. Yeah, I know gas prices are high. Hold on, because as soon as this is done, they will plummet. And already the market today had a little bit of a up and down. But overall, Wall Street is sticking with President Trump. And he clearly is still pushing for the drill, baby, drill strategy, which certainly helps keeping America flush with oil and gas. So President Trump believing that if he can choke Iran financially, they're losing $435 million or so a day. Well, then maybe they will implode from within. And then the good people of Iran can maybe rise up with the right support financially and, of course, with weapons. And maybe they can take over the regime and take back their country. And President Trump says that could happen soon. Here is what President Trump said just a little bit ago.
But, you know, they have a problem coming up because they have, it's a very explosive situation in a lot of different ways. You know, their oil, when you turn off the oil underground, and the mechanical too, but underground has a tendency in like almost 100% of the cases to literally explode and just destroy everything around it. And you can never get that oil again. In other words, you can get back 30 to 40%, but it can never be like it is right now. It does tremendous damage to the oil system in a country if that happens.
Now, Mr. President, last time you were on...
They've run out of areas for storage.
Oh, yeah.
And they say that in 2 weeks, you know, when they talk about time, in 2 weeks they're going to have a natural explosion of their oil that's going to make it impossible for them to really recover from.
By the way, that was great to hear from the president because we never sort of heard an exact timetable. We heard other people saying it would take X amount of time. But it's the first time that I've heard him say in 2 weeks they're going to have a natural explosion. And that sounds like a good way to go, and especially without U.S. boots on the ground. But President Trump also clear, and by the way, that was an interview with Hugh Hewitt there of Salem News. President Trump also saying that I'm not going to rule anything out, that who knows what this regime has up its sleeve. And regardless, I will not rule out anything because the bottom line is they will never have a nuclear weapon.
I will say that one way or the other, we have one thing. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
And now, Mr. President, you've killed a lot of their leaders. Do you think you have to kill the D team as well? Because we're down to the D team or the E team or the X team. I don't even know who's running the country. Do you have to wipe them out?
Well, let's see what happens. I mean, a lot of people aren't really looking for that job. They have. We knocked out their first team. We knocked out their second team. We knocked out half of their third team. A lot of people aren't looking for that job, but I find them to be far superior than the first group. Okay, the first group was totally out of control and was doing the wrong thing for their country. But I think we'll see what happens. The one thing I will say is they talk a lot differently when they're talking to me than they talk when they're talking to the media or the television set. It's a lot different. You know,
their propaganda is terrible. Now, I was talking to Ambassador Orrin.
They're looking to do a job, and they get on television. They say the exact opposite. Do you remember I was telling you that they want to make a deal, that they're talking, and they denied ever talking to me? And I say, what's going on over here? These guys, so they're pretty good at propaganda, I guess, but they have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft, they have no nothing.
So what do you think? Do you think it's going to take military might? I still think it's going to have to take some sort of military action. And if you listen to a lot of the generals in the last 24, 48 hours, many of them that I've known for years, they're coming out and saying that they believe that at some point it's just a question of when, that maybe we got to go after Karg Island. We got to do a number of these things to expedite the process, just to even have them feel a little bit more pain. Because when you are a zealot, a fanatic, like these leaders are of Iran, they're going to need to have a pounding and some sort of a wake-up call. And maybe all of that happens all at the same time. Maybe you let them implode, and then you take some military strikes and say, do you want another? All right. Do you want another? Do you want another? I'm sorry. I have no sympathy whatsoever for the Iranians. And I actually think it's going to take a lot of pounding. I have no respect for the regime. The people, I want to make sure that they're safe. Obviously, President Trump does too. And you know what? I give him a lot of credit. If you look at the polls, a lot of people are frustrated in America. They're very frustrated with the price of gas. They're frustrated, still wanting to know some questions about the war. Maybe the messaging could be a little better on that. But President Trump is really clear, saying they will not get a nuclear weapon. And I think Caroline Leavitt at the White House, she's on pregnancy leave, but I think right before she left, she was very clear in articulating the message. Maybe there's some others that need to really make it crystal clear so the people understand this is not tiddlywinks. I mean, who are these people that are like, oh, well, I'm not sure if the American public support this or if it's a good idea. Oh, I guess you want to have Iran have a nuclear weapon? Have you truly lost your mind? You see what they're saying and what they're doing. Even today, with all these ships out there from the U.S. military and 15,000 new military men and women out there, they're still sending these 6 little mosquito boats. Luckily, the U.S. military took them out. But that's how nutty they are. It's like a David and Goliath, but they don't care. But sometimes, the smaller guy wins. Sometimes it's the good guy. In this case, it's not. But you know what? You can't take that chance. And that's why so many ships still don't want to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And that's why you can't leave them, even a few of them, in power or anywhere near power, because you just can't trust them. I mean, today they're putting out all this zealotry like, the hand of Allah is going to do this and going to do that and going to do this. And we're going after this. A South Korean ship also took a hit. And they're going after UAE. There's a chance that UAE might actually get involved and do a declaration of war. So there's a lot of stuff going on out here that's really rattling the cages. And I give President Trump a lot of courage for staying steadfast, staying clear, and also saying his objective is world freedom, America's freedom, but world's freedom. This may not have been the popular thing to do with gas prices in a midterm election year, but if things can turn around pretty quickly, and he can get rid of a terrorist regime, the biggest state sponsor in the world of terrorism, then I think he'll be awfully popular. That's my feeling. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222 is the number to call. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show. And speaking of zealots, oh my goodness, this weekend, there were a number of them that were actually speaking on college campuses. No wonder so many of our college campuses are just contaminated with all of these religious zealots and non-religious zealots, but zealots nonetheless, going around and telling, our young people, contaminating their minds, saying that, oh, America is terrible, essentially the Hassan Piker type lines like America deserved 9/11. And I think one of the worst offenders is this guy named Mohammed Abdu. My opinion, this guy is downright dangerous. He was a scholar of modern Arab studies. He was a visiting professor at Columbia University, where they had all those crazy protests, remember? The quote, continuation of the summer of love. And he was so crazy that even Colombia got rid of him. You know that's bad when Colombia says, that guy's nuts, that guy's dangerous. And when you hear that, you know that that's trouble. So they get rid of the guy, and now he's on what's called a Death to the Academy tour. A Death to the Academy campus tour to spread hate, I guess, across America and to bring his crazy views. And this is a guy who essentially was very supportive of Hamas. This is a guy who should not be around young people, but yet he's on a campus tour. And he's speaking at different colleges across the country. Why would any campus say, oh, that's the kind of guy that I want to have come and speak to my students? And one of the places was Virginia Tech. I can't believe this. Virginia Tech posted some video. They were very proud, I guess, of his speech with his Death to the Academy tour. And listen to some of the things that he was saying. He said, death to America and an end to the U.S. empire. This guy should be out of the country immediately. He is not a U.S. citizen. He is just a resident here. What the heck is he doing in our country? Take a listen.
We are in a war, a racial religious war since 1492, as I'll elucidate in a little while. But we are in a battle for hearts and minds and souls, sir. This is Virginia Tech. This is the context of which we're speaking. 300,000 acres of stolen land, a revenue raised of 285,000 from, in terms of interest from this land. This is the context. This American entity that is about to celebrate, well, it's more than 250 years, but is about to celebrate its 250th anniversary. I don't think it should see its 250th anniversary, but that is the point. And so when we say death to America, we mean, and loud and clear, a total end to U.S. empire. The destruction of this crusading settler colony, her entire project, her capacity to meddle and intervene in other nations, to wage war, to engage in coups, to engage in interventions, to continue her ongoing genocide for anti-blackness, for anti-indigenous founding and structure right here where we are. It means a reckoning. It means indigenous sovereignty. It means black self-determination. It means that we would be engaged in different ways of life according to indigenous traditions and spiritualities and ways of living with the land and not on it.
That's shocking. This guy is at Virginia Tech as a speaker. What are they doing allowing somebody like that come to a college campus? And you just heard him in his own words. There he was saying, when we say death to America, we mean it loud and clear, a total end to the U.S. empire, this entity called America. What is he doing in our country? Why have these people not been kicked out? And that's a good question for the Trump administration, because you would think a guy like this would be on the radar, a guy who's been expressing support for Hamas, Hezbollah, and Islamic Jihad. By the way, he refers to the October 7th attacks as the blessed day of the Al-Aqsa flood. Like it's a beautiful day to celebrate. It's disgusting. And not to be outdone, here's another one. This one, I couldn't believe. This is University of Michigan, which has had a lot of problems of late. Professor Derek Peterson thanked anti-Israel protesters for creating 2 years of campus chaos. And he was their commemoration. He was their graduation speaker. Listen.
Sing for the pro-Palestinian student activists. Who have, over these past 2 years, opened our hearts to the injustice and inhumanity of Israel's war in Gaza.
I mean, I want to thank you for wreaking havoc on my campus. Because, boy, we hope you continue doing that in your adult life. You can't make it up. That is a sitting professor. didn't thank the Jewish students, didn't say, oh, I feel so terrible. What happened to the Jewish students feeling terrorized by some of these people? No. I want to thank you for causing hell on my campus. Could you do it again? I'll take your calls when we come back. 1-800-848-9222. And you're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Oh, it's out of here. Home run Ferry Hawks. Get ready, Staten Island. It's time to celebrate 5 years of Ferry Hawks baseball. Come out to the ballpark this week as the Ferry Hawks welcome in the Charleston Dirty Birds May 5th through the 10th. Grab the kids and come on out. We kick it off on Tuesday, May 5th with Cinco de Baseball with $5 tickets and $5 food and beverage specials. And we end the week as we celebrate all moms on Mother's Day. Moms get in free. Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And I'm sure all of you have heard about America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. We're going to be talking about him later on also in the show. We got an update actually earlier from someone who knows Rudy really well. Tom Van Essen. He is the former FDNY, Fire Department of New York chief. He was with him during 9/11. Then they became business partners, stayed friends, and will give us an update. He gave us a really great one on Katz and Cosby earlier. I'm going to play that for you because, boy, all of us have been praying for Rudy. I love Rudy. Wonderful man. And apparently he is doing better, but also not doing well enough. That's a good way to put it. So we'll give you an update, an important update in a little bit. You definitely want to stay tuned for that. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Sandra in New Jersey, line 1. Go ahead, Sandra, your thoughts tonight.
Oh, good evening, Rita. So I'm thinking about everything that you said tonight about the gas and how it's going up. You know, I have a Cherokee Jeep, and the last time when gas was better, I paid, I think it was $38, and that's when it came down. Now it's up to $56. So I say, no, I react to like everybody else. I say, look at that, wow. But I also say, so I can buy one item less that I would have bought. You know how much stuff we all buy that we really don't even need? I have a storage room in the building, stuff that my husband bought. So many things. It just adds up. You don't need all the stuff that we buy. That's my opinion.
No, that's a good point. Hey, Sandra, what do you think if things come down? And I saw today there's the highest price since 2022. But let's not forget, Joe Biden, there was no war. So during some of the Biden years, during the Biden years, for most of it, it was $4. And it was higher before that. So I think people will right away, if he can make an enormous change in Iran, and then he can bring down the gas prices right away, which they will. They'll plummet right away. And then the midterms come. I think they'll appreciate him and the Republicans.
The Rita Cosby Show
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Pecos, Texas, where police officers aided in saving the life of a young child when life-saving measures were performed on an infant who had been unresponsive. Now, a release from the police department says it was early one morning and they got a call about a infant that was not breathing. Well, they encountered a young child who clearly was in distress, and the child's caregiver was in visible distress as well. The officers immediately took action. They took care of the child and rushed her to the local hospital. And upon transporting the baby to the hospital, officers provided emergency care on the way, remaining calm, focusing. One of the other officers was administering life-saving aid, performing the Heimlich maneuver to clear the child's airway. By the time they arrived at the hospital with the child had started breathing again and active responsively to police. The child is now reportedly in stable condition and expected to make a full recovery thanks to our great men and women in blue. Well, did you see what happened in Brooklyn over the weekend? I can't believe this. They go to arrest an individual who had a criminal history. And so ICE goes to do this arrest. Then this guy was injured. They take him to medical care to the hospital there, the Wyckoff Hospital there in Brooklyn. And these anti-ICE agitators find out that this guy's being taken there and ICE is going there. And what do? They block the entranceways. They block the entrance and exit to ER. Can you imagine what a catastrophe that is? You're trying to rush. What if like a loved one or yourself is being rushed to ER, and then you got these crazy anti-ICE agitators, hundreds of them, screaming at the hospital. These people are nuts, and we need to start throwing the book at them. Luckily, there were about 9 of them that were arrested, but I have no faith because it's in New York City. And Alvin Bragg will say, oh, great job, everybody. That's the problem. So take a listen. Here are some of the protesters. I want to hear what some of the things they were shouting. And they were blocking the entrances and exits, but they were also assaulting NYPD and also ICE agents, completely out of line. Take a listen. Does that sound like a nice, big, happy, nice, sweet, peaceful protest? I didn't hear them singing Go Tell It on the Mountain. I mean, you got to be kidding me. These people are nuts. So guess what? Mayor Mondani gets a chance to speak yet again. And the right answer is, Mr. Mayor, nobody should be attacking law enforcement, whether it's federal, whether it's NYPD. Nobody should be blocking entrances to hospitals. What a catastrophe that could be if somebody was trying to get there and then suddenly couldn't get in or couldn't get out, whatever the emergency is. What if an ambulance was trying to leave and do a life-saving measure and these crazy ICE protesters were blocking it? This is so darn right dangerous. Everybody who was at that event and blocked the roadway, and I'm sure there were probably more than 8 or 9. It takes more than 8 or 9 to probably block an entrance or an exit. Throw the book at them. But no, Mayor Mondani says this is all just free speech and how dare ICE come aboard. Listen to him. He really blasted ICE. I mean, what message does this send? Listen to this.
I've made very clear that our laws leave no room for interpretation about the fact that our NYPD will not participate in civil immigration enforcement. And I've also been very clear about my views on ICE raids as a whole. I think that they are cruel. I think that they are inhumane. I've seen some of the videos from the incident. That is incredibly disturbing.
Yeah, the videos are disturbing, he says. And then he says, cruel and inhumane. Now, he's not talking about the protesters blocking the hospital entrance and exit. He's talking about ICE, that ICE is cruel and inhumane. This is really just horrible. I mean, I'm telling you, this is so dangerous. And we're heading into the summer months where more protests happen because people get out. They're fair weather protesters. They want to get out there. And you can tell we're heading into the midterms. There are people, I believe, paying a lot of these protesters to get out there and stir the cauldron. Also, members of Congress are also certainly fueling the flames with a lot of their very dangerous rhetoric. And then the best the mayor can do is say, no, you know what? There's no circumstance where anybody should be cooperating with ICE, and I think they're cruel and inhumane. And protesters, great job. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Larry in Brooklyn on line 3. Go ahead, Larry. Your thoughts.
Yeah, not only that, but there was a councilwoman who actually said to the media, "This isn't a protest. This is the neighborhood getting together to rescue one of its people."
Oh my God! Which council? By the way, which council member said that? I want to call that council member out.
It was a councilwoman.
All right, I'll take a look. I think I remember this too, Larry. I think I remember seeing this over the weekend where it was like, we're just trying to help one of our fellow wonderful citizens who has a criminal record and happens to be wanted by ICE. And his supporters happen to be blocking the roadways of a hospital emergency room. I mean, to me, this is a really just such a low, despicable move. And it reminds me, Larry, of, they were blocking roadways, blocking bridges, but to block a hospital where patients are coming in and out, those patients have nothing to do with what this matter is. And yet they're willing to put people in danger, put people who are, on very serious health conditions. If I was like driving a family member or something like that to the hospital and I saw these people, I'd be so furious right now. I would be so outraged that, first of all, you got enough stress driving somebody to the hospital or going yourself to the hospital ER, and then you have the stress of protesters screaming and banging on your window. I mean, have they no self-respect, Larry, or no respect for others?
Yeah, well, I think I don't understand why this guy was not taken into, why these protesters that were arrested were not taken into federal custody for obstructing federal law enforcement. Why is the NYPD allowed to be involved when they know that the criminal justice system, when Trump knows that the criminal justice system in New York is dysfunctional and these people will be just taken out and set free again, only to return when ICE does the next maneuver in the neighborhood. So there's no progress being made. They should be taken into federal custody. And not only that, but this illegal immigrant, they should not have made a spectacle of him by bringing him to Wyckoff Hospital. They should have brought him across the river to New Jersey to some obscure Hackensack General Hospital or something like that. Right in the middle of Bushwick, of all places. It's a freaking hellhole over there with these depraved people standing up for a Nigerian who has a criminal record. The guy overstayed his visa, and he has a criminal record. He was acting like a maniac, throwing himself on the floor in the medical center and everything. And this is the kind of person that these depraved people in New York stand up for. So we have to fight back. Trump is just laying down. I don't understand what he's doing.
Well, I think he's a little busy with Iran and some other things right now, Larry. But I think other people in his administration should be focused on this, because I agree with you. And, you bring up a great point. Why are there not some federal charges? Because that certainly changes the game, and especially in places like New York. You know what I thought about, Larry? How about that time, and it was Columbia campus, remember, where the pro-Hamas protesters were protesting, and they were holed up in Hamilton Hall for a while. And remember, the NYPD had to bring like their jaws of life or whatever it was called that came up to the window, remember, and had to almost break in to get those people to get out. They were and there were janitors that were essentially saying that they were held hostage, that they could not leave, that they were taken in. Remember, they were getting food sent up to them, and they were living there. It was completely illegal, completely improper. And then afterwards, they said, oh, gosh, look, all these people have been arrested. Isn't this great? And it turns out, I think almost every single one of them got released quietly. Some of them, didn't even get fingerprinted, I don't even think. They just got kind of taken down and said, oh, here's the bathroom. Do you want to go? Hint, hint. I mean, it was such a blatant revolving door of justice because they had to look like they were doing something. And then quietly it came out that they I can't remember, but it was basically none of them had any charges that stuck. It was just minor little slap on the wrist. And that's what's probably sadly going to happen here. And when you have a mayor who comes out and says, oh, it vilifies ICE yet again, after this moment, he sees not even a shade of gray. I mean, I don't even think it should be blue, but it shouldn't. But he doesn't even have a shade of gray. All he does is say how terrible ICE is. And it's ICE could be getting beaten up, left and right, and he'd still say ICE is terrible. He has no comprehension, it seems, how tough it is to be a law enforcement officer. I mean, remember the snowball fight? It was a bunch of boys playing games while cops were getting pounded with. It wasn't a snowball game. They were getting pelted, and these folks should have been charged with assault. But that's this mayor, and until I agree with you, because he's here to stay, barring, Bruce Blakeman becomes the governor and he could replace him. That's an option. But if Kathy Hochul stays as governor, we'll see what happens. It's an election year. But if things stayed the same, then you really do need the feds to step in. And that's a very, very good question, Larry, where they should be taking control, especially in these blatant blue cities with people like Zoran Mondani. Larry, thank you very much. Great points. Very, very good points. Let's go to Tony in Clifton on line 2. Tony, your thoughts tonight.
Rita, that's really the theme of what Larry's saying is that, first of all, Iran is so radical and dangerous. It's like if you look at any kind of serial killer, they can't be allowed to be let loose. I mean, people who are radically sick, it's just the same as a country. They have to be, taken out, the leadership, not the people. The people have potential, but the Iranian leadership has to be demolished. I think we're going to hear news tomorrow. And I also think going after South Korea wasn't a good thing because, in South Korea, our veterans go there for the Korean War every year. They're a friend. I hope that they work with us and many other people because Iran has to be taken out. They are very sick.
They're sick people. They're sick people. And that's why, Tony, I really applaud President Trump, because a lot of these other past presidents, it was just straight lip service. It truly was. It was straight lip service from people saying, oh, well, you know what, we're going to go in. They shouldn't have a nuclear weapon. We're keeping an eye on it. And lo and behold, they were growing and building. They were appeasing. And you even look at some past Republican presidents, too, who did not do anything, tried, but didn't really do it, clearly weren't successful. And yet here we are at this moment. And President Trump says, you know what, I'm not going to do it for political reasons. For political reasons, maybe he wouldn't do it. I mean, I'm sure he knew this was going to be a complicated task. But he said, you know what, I have to do it for U.S. survival, for world survival. To me, that's a leader who doesn't sit there and look at the polls and go, okay, well, this is, because darn well there are a lot of other leaders right now that if they saw some of the poll numbers with rising gas prices, all that stuff, that's, yeah, I guess we did enough damage. We send a message and then, Iran lives another day. That's not President Trump, right, Tony?
Well, Rita, Iran will not let us inspect. Iran will not cooperate with us. That means that we could all go kaboom any day. Here in New Jersey, we have New Jersey Governor Mike Sherrill, who last month or the end of March visited a mosque led by an imam accused of ties to Hamas. I mean, every blue state in our country is supporting Iran. We need to, first of all, get rid of what's going on in Iran, and then we need to deal with what's going on here, because I believe New Jersey is still getting some funding, and so is New York. The funding has got to stop. These governors and these mayors are getting money from the federal government, and we're all got a clock ticking where the atomic bomb could go off when they decide they're going to go berserk. And that's my thought for tonight.
I agree. And this sort of Hamas coddling by Democrats really needs to end. It's shameless. I mean, to me, it's un-American, and they know better, but they're like, oh, for some reason, they're trying to coddle a pro-Hamas constituency, I guess. You know, they want those young people out there to the polls. I guess they'll do anything to bring them. But I think people with common sense, Republican, Democrat, whoever it is, are going, are you crazy? I mean, you hear these comments from this crazy guy. That's why I was playing this Mohammed Abdu. And this is the former Columbia professor who was too radical even for Columbia. And now he's on this, Death to America tour around the country. And they're actually universities saying, God, I can't wait to have that guy speak. I mean, parents need to wake up. Administrators need to wake up. And I agree. And the president of the United States needs to also send a powerful message. And his team needs to start looking at this guy's legal status. What's his status in this country? He's not a citizen, so he doesn't have the same rights we do. And yet he's sitting there chanting some of the most vile anti-American things, talking about bringing down the U.S. empire. I mean, that's like what I would expect from Osama bin Laden, not somebody speaking to a college campus, invited to a college campus. That speaks volumes on so many different ways. Shame on that campus. And how disgusting is this man? He should get out of the country. He should be removed immediately. 1-800-848-9222. And everybody, we will continue your calls when we come back here on The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is The Rita Cosby Show.
And coming up in the next hour here on The Rita Cosby Show, we will give you an important update on our friend Rudy Giuliani, who was fighting for his life over the weekend. We'll have all the details on that. And also, I can't believe this, that a judge actually apologized to the would-be assassin, Cole Allen, saying, we're so sorry you've been treated terribly. Are you kidding me? What is wrong with the judicial system that a judge could actually say that, saying, we're so sorry you were held in solitary. Oh, that's not nice of us. And this guy's accused of plotting a mass attack on pretty much everybody in the room at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, including the President of the United States. What a disgrace that a judge would actually say that. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Dom in Minnesota. Dom, your thoughts tonight, my friend. Great to hear from you.
Yeah, Rita, I think the UAE's pulling out of OPEC is starting to look very strategic. Trump, has significant business investments in UAE. So I think UAE is looking to help us bring down oil prices in a hurry. That's what I think is going on, might be with them.
That, Ed, that's an interesting point because they seem to be much more aligned with the U.S. and Israel. And the other thing, they may also be strategic, too, because they're really frustrated, obviously, with Iran. They've taken in so much incoming. I was seeing, I think it's like, 500. They've taken in missiles. They've taken in drones, just an enormous amount from the very beginning. And Iran's going after their oil assets. And, they were just a quiet neighbor before all this, but they don't like it. And they may take some very serious action soon, not just getting out of OPEC, but they may take even some military action. They have a lot of money, a lot more than Iran does these days. Iran should be very careful if they rattle a hornet's nest in their neighborhood, in addition to Israel, right?
I think that the Iran striking UAE has probably struck a nerve with them, saying, "To hell with this! We're gonna do what we have to do and get this demon out of our area for good." I think that's what struck a nerve with them. That's what I'm thinking.
I do too. And that's why I think they're willing to do whatever it takes. And now that they actually took some incoming over the weekend, and in the last few hours, they took a couple missile strikes, a couple drone strikes. Luckily, it looks like they were able to intercept them. But they have spent a lot of assets just protecting themselves. And now I think they're really also seeing who Iran really is and what a major threat Iran is to the rest of the world. And I think the fact that, like Dom, that Iran is willing to go after their Arab neighbors at a time like this, where, you could see that They just don't have any limits. It just shows why they could never, ever have a nuclear weapon. Because guess what? Sadly, Dom, I think they'd use it. And that's why we got to make sure that this is a success, and we got to back the president.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here? Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.